Hey everyone, this is Nick and this is your Linux, open source and privacy news fix for the first half of June 2021. In this one, we have Firefox's new redesign, Nvidia Drivers getting ready to better support Wayland, and a lot of desktop environment related news. Let's dive in right after this. Thanks to Linode for sponsoring this video. Linode is the largest independent cloud service provider, meaning they provide hosting that you can use to run your own servers, whatever you need one for. I use Linode to host my own Nextcloud instance, but thanks to their one-click apps you can deploy any type of server in one click. If you're a gamer, you can easily start your own Valheim, Minecraft or CSGO server. But if you're looking for a VPN, you can also one-click deploy your own, using WireGuard or OpenVPN, and you can ensure there is no middleman trying to intercept what you're connecting to. Linode is affordable and has consistent pricing with data centers all over the globe. You can upgrade your servers in one click, just as I did on my Nextcloud instance to add more storage, and you have real humans behind it all to talk to 24/7 by phone or support ticket. Even if you use the cheapest plan available, which is $5 a month by the way. They also have very detailed documentation if you don't like talking to other human beings, which I know I'm not a fan of. If you use the link in the description to sign up, you get a $100 credit to use on your own servers, so head over there and give it a go. I am certain you won't regret it. Okay, let's begin with the Linux-related news. PopOS 21.04 saw the release of its beta version, featuring the first installment of its Cosmic desktop. Now, it's not a brand new desktop environment, but it's not just GNOME either. It's heavily modified in the way it looks and feels. You can expect a dedicated video before the end of the month, but in the meantime, here's what you can expect. The workspaces and the applications grid will both have dedicated buttons in the top panel. The super key won't open the activities view, but a quick launcher similar to KRunner. And there will be a dock by default on the bottom of the screen with plenty of options to customize how it looks and works. It still includes auto tiling and many keyboard shortcuts for users that are more focused on the keyboard. PopOS 21.04 will probably be the biggest departure from base Ubuntu and GNOME since the creation of that distro, so I will definitely cover it in more detail. KDE Plasma 5.22 was released with a particular focus on Wayland and making sure things are all working correctly, including the Plasma activities. Among other things, you'll get adaptive transparency for panels, more coherent system tray icons, a snappier default menu, the ability to select audio profiles directly from the sound applet, or the new system monitor replacing KSysGuard by default. There are tons of quality of life improvements that you can see in the dedicated video I made about the update in the card up top. Plasma 5.23 is already gearing up to be an excellent release as well, with the introduction of the revamped Breeze look and feel, which will modernize the look of the buttons, the sliders, the tabs. Basically every interface widget is getting a makeover, and it looks pretty good. Another day, another desktop environment, as Cutefish sees the light of day. Cutefish, which is the default on Cutefish OS, a new distro, seems to blend a GNOME-like look with more macOS-inspired elements. It's based on Qt 5, Plasma and the KDE Frameworks, and it aims to provide a simple desktop experience with sane defaults. It has a top bar and a dock in a familiar macOS layout, and looks-wise it seems close to Zorin OS or Deepin. Its set of apps is currently very bare bones, but as a proof of concept, it doesn't look half bad. We'll have to see if it brings enough new stuff compared to a slightly tweaked GNOME or to Deepin, but I'm always excited by newcomers in the Linux desktop space. And yes, I know we need apps, not more desktops, but everyone is free to work on what they want, and just because they make a desktop doesn't mean that they would have worked on apps instead. Ubuntu announced Ubuntu Pro for Google Cloud, an Ubuntu offering that runs on Google's cloud. It seems that Ubuntu Pro will just be Ubuntu Server, but with a bunch of services attached to it, with patching all high and critical vulnerabilities in the Universe repository, which includes Node.js or MongoDB. That's over 30,000 packages the Ubuntu team will have to update more frequently. They will also support the distro for 10 years, starting from Ubuntu 18.04, as well as live kernel patching and certified components to improve security and reliability. Google Cloud users will be able to select these images directly when they spin up a new instance, and Ubuntu Pro was already available for AWS users as well, so the service just seems to expand to other cloud providers bit by bit. Now on to some gaming news. Wine 6.10 was released with a new version of the Mono engine to run .NET executables, a new folder naming scheme to follow the more recent Windows releases, and the WinePulse library being converted to the PE format. It also brings 25 bug fixes, including for Microsoft Office, Dino Crisis, League of Legends, GTA 4, StarCraft Remastered, or Amazon Kindle for PC. Speaking of Wine, it looks like the day is close where it will run Windows apps on Wayland without the need to run an X server, what is called X Wayland. Collabora is working on it and making good progress with that Wayland support, including Vulkan support, multi-monitor support, handling of high DPI displays, and support for the Wayland key map. This is still just a patch set asking for comments, so it's not merged as of yet, but this is a really good first step to ensure that we won't need x.org when Wayland is used everywhere, or at least not to play games through Wine or Proton. I feel that this is one of the last hurdles to go through and remove before I could use Wayland on my production machine. Well, that and Nvidia Drivers. And another smooth segue here, as the Nvidia Drivers are moving to better support VR games on Linux. The new driver, version 470, will not only bring hardware-accelerated Vulkan on X Wayland, which means that Nvidia users will be able to play games through DXVK when using Wayland, but it will also support DLSS through Proton and async reprojection. This last thing is crucial for VR games, as it allows to keep a smooth movement when head tracking and moving around, even when the game has FPS drops, so the experience can stay fluid. Without it, you basically got choppy movement and probably more risks of nausea. Good to see Nvidia upping their game on Linux support. Now in terms of applications, Slimbook has released their Slimbook AMD Ryzen controller, a simple app that lets you tweak the power profile of your AMD Ryzen CPU. I have tried that simple app on the Slimbook Titan, for which a video will be live before the end of the week, and it works really well. You can basically just select between 3 power modes, and you'll also get a notification icon to interact with it more easily. It should help users save some battery life on Ryzen laptops, including ones that Slimbook doesn't make, as the app is available through Slimbook's PPA. I wish they would distribute it more widely though, not everyone uses Debian-based distros. Still, when people ask you, why should I buy a Linux device from a manufacturer that supports Linux, instead of just buying a second-hand ThinkPad, that's one of the answers. They contribute to improving the Linux ecosystem as a whole. Something that just didn't make the cut for the last video, Firefox got its new redesign, accompanied with the usual controversy that seems to follow each change of look for any application. Basically, they thinned out the icons and redesigned the menu and the tabs. Now, I like that redesign, I think it looks pretty good, but I will admit that the tabs themselves are a bit too big now, so I enabled compact mode to reduce that size. And the menu itself isn't as user-friendly as it once was, since you don't have icons for anything, so there is no visual cue to help you find what you're looking for. Also, floating tabs don't really make sense in terms of connecting the URL bar and navigation buttons to the actual tab you're viewing. Still, I liked the look and got used to it in less than 5 minutes, so it's really nothing to be angry about, especially as Firefox can be customized with themes and custom CSS for the moment. In terms of UX though, it's probably a regression. OBS, the broadcast tool that I use for all my screencasts and my live streams back when I did some of those on the gaming channel, got a new release. It supports Wayland on Linux, which is pretty cool, and that includes support for Pipewire, the tool that promises an end to audio nightmares on Linux. You also get the ability to undo and redo, and a browser dock, which only was available on Windows previously, so you can dock a comments panel, for example, while you're streaming. OBS can now also capture displays cross GPUs and add transitions when making elements visible or invisible. It's a pretty good release and a really amazing tool if you plan on streaming. Okay, so I'm putting this here because I run Windows 10 VMs from time to time, so Windows is kind of an app for me, or maybe just because it didn't fit in any other category, but the date for Windows 10 end of life has been announced as October 14, 2025. This means that Windows 10 only has 4 more years to live, and Microsoft is primed to release its successor soon. Now, why am I talking about this here? Well, because there have been rumors everywhere that Windows could switch to the Linux kernel for their next release, so we will soon see that this is definitely not the case, on June 24th to be precise, when Microsoft announces the new release. I'm willing to bet that this new release won't be based on Linux. If I'm wrong, I'm creating an OnlyFans account. And let's complete this video with some privacy news. Just when you start thinking Microsoft is changing, they pull another invasive move. Looks like a lot of Windows users are seeing pop-up warnings telling them that Windows recommends different browser and search settings. Basically, if one of your browsers isn't set to use Bing, and if your default browser isn't Edge, you might see that warning. That is sure to cause security concerns in the less educated users, which might actually decide to follow Microsoft's recommendation. Now, I don't have anything against Edge or Bing, they are fine if you want to use Microsoft stuff, but pushing that to users in an operating system that is designed to let the users use their devices as they want, it's a really crappy move. Google will finally stop making other search engines pay for the rights to be selectable by users on Android. The European Union had asked Google in 2018 to let users choose the search engine they wanted to use on Android. And Google complied in a particularly vicious manner, asking other engines to bid against each other for the right to be used. The EU took their time to respond, but they finally seem to have told Google that this was really not what they intended in the first place, and Google will now add up to 12 search engines placed in random order in a ballot screen that Android users will see when setting up a new device or resetting to factory settings. It's a good move, even though I doubt most users will select anything other than Google. At least it can educate people about the existence of other options. And it looks like the Irish police will now have the right to compel the people of Ireland to give up their digital passwords when they're investigating them with a warrant. Basically, this means that all your data are belong to them, as old people would say, if they're searching your house and electronic devices. It's part of a new bill that's been published on Monday that increases the power given to the Gardaí, the Irish police, and it sets a dangerous precedent, in my opinion, of letting your digital life be completely open and accessible even if you're only suspected of something. We're talking about people being investigated, not condemned. So basically, you're presumed innocent, but you'll still have to let the police sift through all of your accounts if they ask you to. I hope this thing doesn't give ideas to other countries, honestly. And that concludes it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't hesitate to like or dislike if you didn't. You can also subscribe and turn on notifications, or follow me on Odyssey if you don't like YouTube. If you want to help me set up that OnlyFans account when Windows 11 uses the Linux kernel, then you can also join my amazing Patreon subscribers or YouTube members and get access to my weekly podcast on each Monday and the right to vote on the next topics I'll cover. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!